The reason why I picked this one is because this is my opportunity to be like, Steve, I'm going to send you one of these Korea shirts. If you ever meet Park, can you please get it signed for me?
We've got a plan that we think strikes the balance between being able to be affordable and genuinely for the community. I nearly joined at 16. And what stopped me joining at 16 years of age was I got a contract to play professional rugby. It's nuts that we were able to do this. And we're only able to do this because people watch us. Alex eventually got me out. We went to go and eat something. I said, if one person just speaks to me today, I'm fucking going. And there was a guy came and sat down at our table. Ian Edwards hooked us up, met Bobby Lee at the Comedy Store. And,
awesome.
And Bobby Lee goes, oh, I know you. You're on Rio's podcast, right? And you're like, what the fuck? He goes, what are you on with the Arsenal guy? What's he called? And I'm like, Joel. He's like, that's it.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of One of Each. I'm your host for this evening, John Chin. And of course, from wherever you guys are tuning in from across the world, I hope you guys are well. I apologize in advance. Something's wrong with my throat. I feel like I might be catching a cold or something, but hopefully I can soldier on and get through this. First things first, let's get this straight. Let me address this because it's been a very long time since we've dropped the last episode of One of Each. Honestly, since I've really taken this passion project of mine seriously, One of Each has been one of those projects that I really, truly wanted to pursue further down the line with that much more seriousness and that much more dedication to what I want to deliver with respect to this series. And it's been put aside for a brief moment because I've just been so focused on content creation as a whole, and just what I've been doing on a daily basis has truly consumed every single moment of my time. It has absolutely been a whirlwind and a roller coaster. It's been incredible, to say the least. In the past year and a half, I'd say, of me trying to really take this passion project of mine seriously, the world of YouTube, content creation, and all of the things in between, it has been nothing short of immaculate. You know, I use that word religiously here, but it really truly has been immaculate and amazing. The new people, the new friends that I've made, the new people that I've met, the new opportunities that have came my way, every single one of these things just... Sometimes I have to really sit there and think like, wow, this is really happening to me. It's a dream come true in so many ways. And lots of things crossed my mind, and I really remembered this one thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about, was because every time I used to watch content creators, they used to be like, oh, thank you so much for your support at home and all this stuff. Like, you know, if you like this video, thank you so much. It helps a lot. And I used to think like, really, are you guys really thanking your fans? And I'm in that position now where I have people that support me on a consistent basis, and I am eternally always grateful for all of your support. And it has always been something that I've tried to put at the forefront of whatever I do with respect to content creation. I speak to Jimmy all the time about this stuff, where like we talk about our live shows, and we talk about some of the commenters and some of the people tuning in to the live shows, and like, oh, this person said this one, that was hilarious. Like, this person, we see them all the time. Wow, this is incredible. And we sit there sometimes, we even sit here sometimes in this couch, and we just go, wow, this is all crazy, you know? But, and by the way, ever since I've been really pushing this content thing, like, I've been doing so much short form content. Everything is like strapped between 30 seconds to 90 seconds. And I've always been, oh my goodness, somebody that just has to be spitting. You know what I mean? Like, I've been speaking at 1,000 miles per hour for these videos because I need to squeeze in that information. And to do this, to be able to take my time, to be able to breathe, you know what I mean? It's amazing. But anyways, let me not waste any more time. Today's guest is somebody that I've been admiring, respecting, terrified of for a very, very long time. I've known this man since 2015. I first met him in 2017 out in Manchester, and the first time I met him, we were due to link up at this bar, and he was shocked at my height because everybody thought I was rather small and whatever, but I was actually tall, if not taller than some of them, most of them actually. And he came up to me and he gave me a bear hug. And I was terrified, rightly so, because he gave me a bear hug that almost crushed me. I swear, the strength in this man was insane. And I'm not a fragile guy. I'm a pretty big boy too, you know what I mean? But I wanted to give him a hug, but my hug got overpowered by his hug. And I just remember being crushed. And I was like, this man is a bear. Like, he is a monster. He took me out for a beer with his missus and the producer of Full Time Devils at the time. And we had a great time. And we also got to watch the Manchester United game afterwards. We did a lot of content for Full Time Devils. And ever since then, it truly has been incredible. I've been relying on him for counsel. I've contacted him far too many times for free, honestly. And for him to continuously show me all this love and support, I gotta give him something. You know what I mean? And thankfully, I was able to repay some of that in the form of chauffeuring and tour guiding and all that stuff. It's when Stretford Paddock now were out here in the United States. And it was incredible. We had such a fun time. He's somebody that's very, I think, misunderstood in some ways. You know, people associate YouTube and content creators as like this like extroverted, outgoing, you know, seeking massive attention and things like that. But actually, he's nothing like that. This man is rather quiet, rather laid back in some ways, and he really doesn't like too much attention. I think he only appreciates the fact that he's out here doing content and people appreciate it, but he's not a celebrity by any stretch of the imagination. He hates the whole concept of like people wanting to take photos with him. He's grateful, of course, but being a photographer for Full Time Devils out there, it was so funny to watch him. He's filled with love and he's such a good guy, and I owe him a lot. Today's guest, if you guys haven't guessed by now, is none other than Mr. Stephen Howson. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, Steve, thank you so much for joining me. Honestly, I was nervous as hell asking you to come on the show because, you know, I know you're super busy. You have so much going on. And it's just one of those things where I was like, you know what? I'm going to grow a pair of balls and I'm going to do it. So thank you for coming on.
Anytime, mate, especially for you.
Look, I'm not going to waste any more of your time. Let's get straight into it, starting with the first photo. I'm going to lay the groundwork here and you're going to walk me through it. I know the emotions right now with respect to Vibe with Five and Rio Ferdinand. I'm sure it must have changed since you first began, but what does it feel like working with Rio Ferdinand? You know, he's somebody that you've been watching since you were a youngin', and he's a legend for Manchester United. And somebody like Rio, for me, I think is just one of the top elite figures for Man United. So just talk to me a little bit about how it feels to be working with somebody like Rio.
If I ever think about it deeply, yeah, it's mental. But Rio's got this quality where he makes you forget who he is in his presence. Like, and he will just have a regular conversation. Like, we was having a chat the other day where we ended up just talking about, you know, how did I meet Janine? And he was talking about how he met Kate. And you're just thinking, this isn't like, there's no at arm's length with him. You have real conversations that I would have with you, that I would have with anybody else that we work with. So like, he allows you to forget he is one of the best footballers that's ever lived. He had a great story about Sir Bobby talking to him before he goes up the stairs to lift the Champions League for Manchester United. And like, he nearly breaks down in tears until Vidic comes over and goes, not here, like, not now. And you think he's literally one of three people to lift the Champions League for Manchester United in the entire history of the club. The significance of that can't be downplayed. He is a serious legend, and only behind Yapstam in terms of defenders that I've seen in the Premier League, let alone play for United. He makes it easy for him to work with, and he removes all of the awe of working with him, because he's like, this sounds so weird to say, but he's a normal guy. You know what I mean? He's a normal bloke.
I use this photo in particular because this was obviously the World Cup special that you guys had out there in Qatar. Talk to me a little bit about what that must have been like for you to be able to go to a World Cup and to do a live show and to do all of these things with Rio. Not just Rio, but you've had phenomenal guests on there like Pochettino, Gary Lineker. You had all these people. Talk to me about like what that was like.
Oh, the World Cup was one of the best experiences I've had in my life. And I think I downplay a lot, but I'll happily say that was unreal. I really wanted to go to the World Cup in Brazil. I think Brazil's probably a little bit more of a home of football compared to Qatar. I don't know. For some reason, I had no desire to do the Russian one. I'm not sure why. But when it was coming up for Qatar, I was thinking, I might go to this. Like, I'm wearing an England shirt there, but I think anyone who knows me, I'm not an England fan. Joel got me that shirt.
Yep.
Because he got me the shirt and got me some tickets. Like, there's a whole vlog showing you how that came about, and I wasn't enthused, shall we say, but it is what it is. I wanted to go and experience a World Cup, and I've checked that box now, and I think doing it, working with Rio, the doors he opens are just unfathomable. And it wasn't actually Rio that opened the best door either. Reshmin Chowdhury, the presenter, she wanted to get some photographs while she was presenting a paddle tournament that Sheikh Nasser was involved in. She was presenting it. And she's like, can you come down and just take some photographs of me at this tournament? So I said, yeah, sure. And then she's like, I think the likes of Ronaldo and that are supposed to be there. And I was like, I woke up that morning with the mission of, I'm going to try and see Ronaldo today. I knew which hotel he was staying in, and I'm thinking, he's just hanging out. Like, there's no games on today. This is like either just before the semi-final or just before the final. It was around about that time. It had been quite quiet, quite chill. And I thought, I'm going to see if I can go and find Ronaldo today. And I found him about 15 minutes later. We turn up at this. It was the easiest challenge ever. We turn up at this paddle tournament, and there is just a who's who of everybody United should have signed in the 90s. From Clivert to Seedorf to Batistuta and Totti, and it was everyone, and it was amazing. It was so good.
I can't even imagine. Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, you've named a whole bunch of players there, and you've obviously name drop Ronaldo taking photographs at a paddle tournament. But any other like key highlight moments come to your mind during that World Cup? Because for me, that World Cup was one of the most memorable that I can remember. Of course, 2002 as a Korean was important for me, but of all the World Cups I've watched as a spectator, for some reason this latest one, it leaves a lasting impact for me.
I would agree. I think from a pure footballing point of view, I think it was the best. I don't think there's been a World Cup that actually competes with that. I think it was the best on-pitch product that we've seen. And I think that was a surprise to almost everybody, because we all assumed the stadiums, the grass, the facilities, the time of year, everything was going to make it like the worst World Cup it could have possibly been. And it was literally the opposite, which was a pleasant surprise. In terms of the key moments, being at the semi with Morocco and France, and it being an essential Morocco home game, that was quite special. I had goosebumps. Like the Moroccan fans, the way they got behind their national anthem, literally, I was like, whoa, this is summit. But there was quite a few of those. I was at the Korea-Uruguay game, and I was bored out of my mind sitting with the Uruguay fans, and I noticed like a little pocket of ultras, and I was like, I'm going to try and get in there, thinking I got no right whatsoever to do this. But we did it, and we got in there, and we had a great time. And I think we ended up on Korean TV because we was behind the guy that used to play for, was it the guy who used to play for Arsenal?
Park Ji-young, maybe?
Yeah, I think that might have been him, yeah. I think we ended up directly behind him, and he was vlogging the entire thing. So we ended up all over TV in Korea, I think, me and Ronaldo.
All right, guys, quick break here. Hope you guys are enjoying the podcast so far. I wanted to go back to the Qatar World Cup and look for those videos in the world of Korean YouTube and Korean media to see if I can pick out Steve, because I remember Steve mentioning this to me during the World Cup, but it didn't dawn on me at the moment to look for him. But let's go back and see if we can find them. So for those of you who don't know this channel is called Shoot for Love. They initially started out in South Korea and really grew their presence there before pretty much becoming global. They work with footballers now all around the world, and their mission is very simple: football and love. And I love what they do with their content, and at some point I would be honored to be able to work with them in some capacity. But I believe this was the game where the Korean OG Park Ji-young filmed a vlog. Let's take a look and see if we can pick out Steve. He's right there. He's right there. And Ronaldo is there too. Oh my God. How did I miss this? Steve looks so happy. Steve looks like a boy. He's so happy. Oh man, it's incredible. All right, that's enough. Back to the podcast. I remember you texted me. You were DMing me. You're like, look where I'm at. You took a selfie, and I was like, no way, he's there right now with just a bunch of people that look like me, just selling, like watching Korea play in the World Cup. That was insane.
Yeah, it was good. That was good time. That was good atmosphere. Might have been the best atmosphere that I had, or the most fun we had. Probably the only thing that came close was we was at the England. Was it England Senegal? Yeah, England Senegal. And again, I'm sitting with a load of stiffs. I am absolutely bored out of my mind. And the very famous, now famous, sort of Senegalese band was like directly opposite me in the stadium on the other side of the pitch. And I was like, man, we'll get in that. That looks way more fun. So went and got in the mix and had a good time as well. Like, so I'm glad I did both of those things, all of those things, because I'm not just here to sit with people that I came with. I'm not just here to sit with people I know. I want to go and experience these different cultures, different fans from other clubs, and see how they enjoy the game. And I know, like I said earlier, I'm wearing an England shirt. I'm not an England fan. So I can freely go and just enjoy myself with whoever. The one time I felt like a fan in the stadium, I've got my classic R9 1998 shirt on, and I'm watching Brazil. It might have been Brazil-Portugal. Was that a game? I'm watching a Brazil game anyway, and Brazil score right in front of me, and they've had this incredible, well-worked goal, like right in front of me. I'm on about row 6, and it was absolutely mega. Like, I got to way more games than I thought. Like, we didn't have any tickets when we got there, and we managed to score a few tickets. I didn't get a ticket for a final. I reckon I'd have paid about $1,000 for a ticket for the final, but I couldn't even. Like, people was coming, like, because I'm thinking it's a World Cup final, right? And by the way, if you'd have seen the game first and then gone back, I think I might have paid 2.5, because has there ever been a better World Cup final?
Seriously. Oh my days. Unforgettable. All right, well, let's move away from the World Cup situation. Let's talk a little bit about just Vibe with Five in general. You've been working with Rio. You've been working with now Ashley Williams. You've been working with a whole bunch of people in the football scene. But with respect to Five, what has been some of your more memorable moments? Anybody strikes out to you in terms of who you had a chance to interview, who you had a chance to meet?
Kevin Prince Boateng was really good.
I love that one.
Yeah, he surprised me a little bit. I was a little bit blasé about that one going into it. He was ace. Vidic was good because it felt like one we had to tick off with it being Rio. So one that I'd sort of wanted for so long. We got some mega ones lined up. Some big names, the biggest of names lined up. Yeah, we get the opportunity to interview so many people. And I think observing Rio up close, seeing him in the situations like the World Cup or even when we've been behind the scenes at United and been filming stuff, and Rio's very obviously a social connector. He clearly brings this group of people together and this group of people together and this group of people together. And I think that's a skill that I don't even know if he realizes he's got. But he's very at ease in a lot of people's company. And because of that, he gets to bring loads of different types in. We did Mike Phelan in my office here when he was assistant manager of United ahead of the Euros. We did Gary. We've done the Gary Lineker twice. We had Alan Shearer on. Right. We've done so many big names, and even things just like we was talking about this on Heads Gone with me and Ash the other day. I bored the piss out of Gary Lineker just around the pool, just hanging out, talking about Johan Cruyff and what Lineker's experience with him was, and him, at Barcelona, why Gary maybe adapted to it quite well, why Mark Hughes maybe didn't, why Cruyff wanted rid of him, and how he tried to get rid of him. And I wish Gary would actually be a guest on more shows, because he is a top genuine football guy. And I think the role he plays as host of Match of the Day limits how much Gary actually gets out. He's better on this little podcast he started doing with Shearer and Micah Richards.
I saw that.
You get more of him out on that. But I wish he would go on. I wish he'd come back on Vibe with Five, and we could have like we had him on Late Night Vibe, and it was quite quick. I think a good hour with him. I think it would be a brilliant interview. He's ace. I mean, Pochettino was good. Without a shadow of a doubt. I'm trying to think who else we had during the World Cup, because we had megastars, didn't we?
You did. You had a plethora. We're going to move on to the second photo. Not sure if you're ready for this one. All right. So the reason why I picked it, look, I had to cheat the system a little bit here. I could only keep you up for so long. So I had to cheat the photo. I compiled it into one. I know there's so much content and testimonies from you regarding your time during the military, but I kind of wanted to focus a little bit more on your youth and the transition to the military, because I think a lot of people, especially young folks, they're a little bit sort of left in the dark when it comes to what that transition must feel like, not just transition from a physical stance of being in the civilian life to military, but also emotionally and all those things, actually focusing a little bit just on your youth. So talk to me about these photos, because obviously you was a stud. Damn.
I found the transition into the military very easy. I wanted to be in the army since I was 6. There was just this inevitability. And I was talking to my granddad about this the other day. I took my granddad to Old Trafford to go and pay our respects to Sir Bobby. And when we was in the car, we were talking about the sort of butterfly effect of some decisions, and how one decision meaning one thing, and I'd spoken to another friend of mine that served, and how we both had a similar sort of entry into the military. I nearly joined at 16. And what stopped me joining at 16 years of age was I got a contract to play professional rugby. It was £37 a week, basically covered like costs to get there. So it wasn't exactly big money. And ultimately, I never ended up getting anything like a full-time wage playing rugby. But I did play professional, at least in the sense that I was getting paid for it, before I eventually knocked it on the head. And that delayed my entry. So I got signed by Salford as I was coming out of school. And I had an application in for the army.
Right.
If I'd have followed through with that application, I would have joined July of 2000, which would have meant when you join at 16, you go to what's called a foundation college. You have to be 17 and a half to join as what's called as an adult, essentially. So you go to the foundation college, and it's almost like sixth form or the final year of high school, I guess, for you guys. And you can't join direct. So you do what's called a year of this foundation college. I would have completed that year and then the 26 weeks of basic training, and I probably would have passed out around about the time of 9/11, which might have seen me go straight to Afghanistan with what I was due to join in 2001. Now, I ended up delaying because of rugby, and I ended up rejoining. I went back to join in 2002 as I got released from Salford. I got released from Salford in I think, November, and I went to the careers office immediately. I did my oath of allegiance on the 9th of December, and I was in on the 13th of January 2003. So it was my application had just been paused. I went and told them when I got my contract with rugby, I'm going to go do this. And they went, cool, just put it on ice. And then I picked it up immediately. I didn't even have to do any of the tests again. I just went for a physical, and then I was in, and I was in really fast. I ended up having the chosen career that I wanted to changed because of who I spoken to as I was doing my initial assessment. And that's what I was talking to my granddad about. I was like, would that have happened if I'd have actually joined in 2000? And what path would that have put me on? Could I have been hurt or injured or killed if I'd have gone in 2001? What would the path look like differently? And obviously you'll never know. But I just thought it was an interesting conversation. But in terms of the transition from military to civilian life, because I was playing rugby league's a brutal, anaerobically taxing sport.
I can only imagine.
I was as fit as I was ever going to be. So I did zero training for basic training, none. Like literally not one additional run or press up set, nothing. And I was fine in basic training. So it made not a difference. And the conversation I was having with my granddad was, should I have spoke to someone at the time and maybe weighed up my options? I mean, I'm pretty pig-headed, and maybe I wouldn't have listened, but it was such a course. Like, no one ever sat me down and went, you realize you're probably not going to make a career out of rugby. But the money of rugby never entered anybody's head. Like, no one ever sat me down and said, like, is this your career? Like, you're going to play professional rugby? Like, no one ever, like, the money and the job part of that never entered anyone's head. It was a case of, like, I'm doing well at this thing. Let's see where it goes. Which I guess is quite freeing, because I don't think I would be the same with my kids. I'd be like, what's your plan? What are you doing? Like, you need a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan. And my parents never did anything like that. They just, like, let me do my own thing.
Honestly, the next question I wanted to ask you was actually with respect to your kids. I've met Jaden before, but what if, let's say, your kid wants to join the military and he comes to you and says, Pops, I want to join the military. How would you feel about that?
You couldn't have changed my mind. when I wanted to go in. So I almost feel I couldn't influence their decision. I could talk to them honestly about my experience and then allow them and hopefully trust them to make the decision if it was right for them. Knowing Jaden and knowing Blake, I think Blake would be more suited to it than Jaden. And I think she would be quite good. I don't think it'd suit Jaden.
Really?
No. I think he'd cope well with the fitness side of things. Like he's a bit of a gym rat, and he does know how to push himself. But there's certain aspects of it that I just don't think he would vibe with.
Before we move on from this topic, I wanted to ask you one more question. Of course, the horrors of war and all the things that one might experience while on duty. I'm sure it changes your view on how you really feel about life in particular. But if there was one thing that you maybe might walk away with respect to the military as a positive, what do you think that might be?
You're dead. I think like there comes a moment where you go, I'm not getting out of this alive. And whether or not that's an immediacy of I'm not going to last today or this month or this week or whatever, you actually realize that you're not getting out of life alive. So I think it emboldens you to try things. It sometimes eliminates, like, I've had a couple of businesses since leaving the forces, and some of them have failed and some of them have been a success. But I think the one thing that I would take from the army is not being afraid to take a risk, because what is the worst that can happen? Oh, my credit rating went down. Yeah, all right, cool. Like, is that it? You know what I mean? I'm not burying a friend. My life is not in mortal danger. This is a paperwork exercise, and we'll be over it in 12 months. So I think it enables you to take a risk and to probably live a little bit freer. I get really itchy feet if I don't do any traveling for a while. And like, I do a fair bit of traveling, and I still don't think I travel enough. I think it might have been on our way to I was going to Bahrain in 2019 to watch an MMA World Championship, and I got chatting to a guy in the airport, and he was like, "Oh, is this your where you going? And what do you do?" And he was like, "Oh, it's just your first trip this year." And I was like, yeah, it's my first trip. And then I was like, no, it ain't. I was like, I've been to Leipzig, Bilbao, Australia, Singapore. And I was like, I think the guy thought I was taking a piss out of him, but I just forgot.
All right, well, we're going to move on to the next photo. Here we go. This one's a bonus. I had to pick this one. We're going to touch upon it for like a couple minutes. I just want to ask your thoughts on this. What is your relationship with South Korea? Because you obviously, we talked about going to the games before. You wore this shirt. You know what I'm saying? Like, talk to me a little bit about what this is.
This is a cool shirt.
That's it.
Yeah. Like I said, I got no national team affiliation whatsoever.
Right.
None. So... Okay. I will buy a cool shirt, like, whether it's the R9 98 one. Germany had a real nice one at the last World Cup, that away red and black one. That was dope. I spent a fortune on shirts, actually, in the Qatar airport. Argentina warm-up shirt, or it might have been the away shirt. It was like a dark blue and black one. I just like cool shirts. And the weirder, the rarer, the better. And you don't see many Korea shirts like driving around Manchester, so why not?
The reason why I picked this one is because this is my opportunity to be like, Steve, I'm going to send you one of these Korea shirts. If you ever meet Park, can you please get it signed for me?
Is that around here pretty regular, I think he's round here pretty regular.
Oh, Manchester, really? Okay. Because I know he flies back and forth between London and Korea and whatnot, but interesting. All right.
Well, he's an ambassador for the club, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
I told you that Korea did, was it the North Face Olympic jackets that they did a few years ago? Mate, yes. I would kill someone for one of those. I
tried everything to get it.
Mega.
I can't find it either. Oh my days, those are fire. All right, well, let's move on to the actual last photo. I wanted to touch up on this one because I think this is very important. I know if people are watching, they're probably wondering why we're not talking about Manchester United. Why we're not? You guys can find Steve talking about Manchester United everywhere on the internet. I want to spend a little bit more time with respect to Steve and Stretford FC, because for those of you that might not know, I'm a part owner of the club. And this club, of course, is founded by Steve, but Stretford Paddock is a fan-owned club. So I thought maybe we could start off by talking a little bit about what Stretford Paddock Football Club is with respect to how it's owned, and we'll talk about the photo. So walk us through it, Steve.
So yeah, I started a football team because when we found the studio, we called the studio Studio 68 because we founded it on the 50th anniversary, basically, of the 1968 Cup final win. And we are a group of lads, mostly interested in football, making football content. And we kept getting invited to these little five-a-side tournaments. We're in the city centre of Manchester. There's a power league a mile away. So we kept getting asked to enter into these tournaments. And we started during the World Cup 2018. So there was various people hosting like World Cup tournaments. So we bought an all navy blue, obviously 1968 throwback, the Bobby Charlton Champions League win. We bought a kit with that on, and we made a logo with Studio 68 on it, and we went and played, and we lost in a semi-final on penalties. We did pretty well, and Ronaldo played, and Cam played, and Will played, and all of these guys that you know now all played in it, and it was fucking loads of fun. And we got loads of requests for people to come and do some content on it. I'd recently been to see Spencer and see what he was up to with hashtag. And my mate Ben was on to me about, shall we invest into a non-league club, want to give back? And all of these things was flying around at the same time. And then when we went to Australia, I'd recently started, probably a few months before we went to Australia in 2019, I made Stretford Paddock as a fan channel, not necessarily as a rival to what Full Time Devils was doing, just as something different, just a slightly different take. And obviously you've seen some of the absolute lunatics that came out of it. We found Joe, Ronaldo, there was Kieran, there was Casey, there was Omar, there was a load of real interesting characters came out of that. And it was basically, we ran internship programs here, and I wanted to give them their own project to sort of work on it. And that to me was the project that we decided to let them work on, just start this channel and see what happens with it. And it did really well. And it kind of grew from there. And we moved from wanting to play together as Studio 68 to let's play as this fan channel thing. And again, we entered tournaments and we played against my Patreons, and we had a few really cool games. And we just bought like an off-the-shelf Adidas red kit or red shirt and put the badge on it. And it looked dope, as you know. So we were like, people started asking us, can we buy these? And we were like, no, it is what it is, isn't it? And then I don't know what happened. It was like, this happened, no idea. And then the next thing you know, I've got a trial booked for New Year's Day, and then 100 people turned up. Wow. And then we applied for a league. And then before you know it, crazy. Absolutely. Like, I can't believe how much work it is. And I can't believe how addicted to it I am. It's mad. And I can't wait to share the plans that we've got going forward with everyone.
I can't wait to hear them, because I am an owner, so I'd love to hear these things. But talk to us a little bit about that fan ownership bit, because I feel like people don't really understand from a football club perspective how that works. And, of course, there's a load of intricacies and details behind the actual process, but just broadly, if you just were to explain it with a broad stroke of a brush, like how would you explain what that is?
So when did the European Super League thing? I feel like it was it 2021?
Yes, 21.
So the European Super League thing's kicked off, and I've seen my ass, because I'm thinking the game is being taken away from us in a big way here, and I don't like it. And this little project that I've got of mine, it feels like it's got a bit of momentum. There's thousands of people watch the highlights, which is crazy for the level that we're at. There's more people watching our highlights at one point than there was watching Blackburn's, and you're like, that don't make any sense, but whatever. And I knew I had something, and what we started with and what we were evolving to, they're slightly different, even though they're related, but they're not the same. Like, I started this for a bit of content and for me to learn more about the game. I talk about the game a lot all the time. I thought the best way to learn was to just do this. I learned so much in the last 3 years about football, from what happens on the pitch to what happens off the pitch, and I couldn't have found a better way to learn about the game than getting involved like I did. And I couldn't even just gone and coach somewhere, because I coached before. I coached for not far off 20 years or something with kids teams and Saturday teams and things like that. So I'd already coached. That's why I wasn't asked about stepping in and saying I'll be the manager. Like, I'd already coached, so it wasn't as crazy as it kind of seems on the surface. And I wanted to just learn as much as I could. With the fan ownership side of things, I saw my ass with the European Super League thing, and I thought, well, we could do something here that's a little bit different. And it's not unique. There's football clubs, even football clubs in the area, that are set up in a similar sort of way. But the likes of FC United feels a bit more insular. I am a founder member of FC United, so I'm not in any way competing with what FC United stand for. But I still think I can have a fan-owned club that stands for the things that I'd like to see in the game. And that is, ultimately we will flip from being like a men's first team to being this best grassroots academy in the world where selfishly we're creating the new United players. That's where I want to take it. I want it to be the point where, at the moment, like, do you know where academy players come from now?
Just probably recruitment, maybe just a whole bunch of scouts going to like under 10 games or something.
Who are they watching? What teams are they watching?
No idea.
Exactly, right. And to me, it feels accidental. And how do you have potentially £100 million assets found by accident the way that they are? Mm-hmm. I'd like to put more certainty into that process if possible. I realize how of an arrogant a statement that sounds like, that I can have this impact on Manchester United, but I'm going to work towards it. And it isn't perhaps as crazy as it seems. We've got Ash Williams as our sporting director. He's going to be involved in the juniors and involved hands-on with the coaching and with some of the other plans that we've got in place. It's a lofty ambition, but it's one that I think is achievable.
Absolutely.
At the moment, there's a couple of teams in Manchester. Fletcher Moss, where Rashford and Lingard came through. There's another one which hasn't, I don't think, off the top of my head, produced any players that you'll know of in the first team just yet, but called Manchester Corinthians. Fletcher Moss does it on a volunteer basis, and Manchester Corinthians does it on a paid basis. Oh. In America, I believe, like, you pay a lot in subscriptions every month for coaching and this, that, and the other. Mm-hmm. Well, you're not going to get that in the UK because people just wouldn't have it for whatever reason, even if you've shown them the level of facilities you can get by doing that. So we've got a plan that we think strikes the balance between being able to be affordable and genuinely for the community, but also finding paid professional coaches. So, your boys and girls can come here and it isn't one of the other parents that are teaching fundamentals to your kids, or it isn't a coach that cares more about his ego and whether his under sevens win or not. Like, we don't care if your under sevens win. We care if you're making better under sevens. And that's where I want to take it. And we think with professional coaches, with a structure, that's where we can take Stretford Paddock. And hopefully that involves us having our own facility in our own home and calling, that corner of Trafford our own. And yes, you'll see the first team and you'll see the fruits of that labor, but really that'll be the tip of the iceberg. And the bulk of the iceberg will be all of the junior teams, boys and girls that we're creating in Manchester with hopefully professional UEFA B, UEFA A level coaches that are able to actually have a bit more method in the random selection of these youth players and have people work towards moving through Stretford Paddock into an academy, into Manchester United, and then hopefully making us a bit of a force again in the future.
There was one thing in particular that I wanted to just big you up on. I forgot exactly how long it was, but it was rather recent, where Stretford Paddock Football Club was looking for a sponsor, and you, through the discussion about the eligibility, to say the lack of a better term, you asked the founding members, you asked the owners, you asked them, would you be okay with having a gambling company as a sponsor? And that kind of interaction and dialogue between the fans as owners, as well as the club. I don't know how difficult something like that might be on a Premier League scale, but do you see something like that happening with respect to maybe potentially Manchester United, where that could be an option?
Unfortunately, I don't think United will ever get to the point where they're fan-owned. I think the opportunity for United to be fan-owned probably was when the B-Sky B takeover failed in 98.
Right.
I think that would have been the opportunity for us at the time. There were people telling people to buy shares, and you might have even got a 50% share, 40% share, enough where you could impact the vote. So I think for United, I think it's the only analogy I can think of. I think United at the moment are a tube of toothpaste and someone squeezed it all out. Are you getting it all back in? You're not getting it all back in, are you? So I think that's the problem. Is United's a toothpaste and you're not getting it all back in the tube. So that's that ship has sailed, I think, for United. But yeah, the sponsorship ethics vote that we had throws back to my thinking. Like, I'm revealing parts of the map in process to the owners, and we're voting on different things as we go by. But I wanted to get that vote in early doors, maybe even 3 or 4 or 5 years before we have our own ground and we can start to have our own academy, because I wanted that set in stone. I wanted that to be a pillar of what the club was built on. And I believe whatever my under sixes are wearing should be whatever my first team are wearing. It shouldn't be a different kit. I shouldn't have gambling sponsorship and alcohol sponsorships. And we have players from different faiths. And there's not been an incident with a player where someone's refused to wear something or something like that. But I've heard of things like that in other teams and other clubs. And I've gone, I don't want to put one of my lads in that sort of a predicament. So everything that we do as a club, I think, has to be for everybody. There shouldn't be anything that excludes anyone on any basis. It should be something that is at all times trying to be as inclusive as possible. And the sponsorship ethics vote brought up a lot of really interesting points from people across the world. It was really interesting. The Reddit group sort of popped off with people asking a lot of questions, and we tried to be as open and honest with people. I mean, if we didn't get this sponsor and the money that sponsor brought in, I don't know where we would be right now in this season, or where we would be from a financial point of view. But we did get that sponsor. It was passed by the members, which I've got a great feeling about. The ethics vote passed by about 90%, and the sponsor passed by, the other way around. The ethics vote passed by about 80%, and the sponsor passed by about 90%. And I think it's probably really good from a sponsor point of view as well, is that you can see that there's, everyone we speak to, we're open and honest. We go, yeah, cool, this sounds good. We're going to have to put it to vote to the members, but, we will do that and we'll get back to you. So every major decision that the club makes, I promise we will put to the members. Now, I had to fold the reserve team 2 weeks ago. Like, it isn't something I can put to a members vote because it's something that requires an immediate decision. And I hope I've got the trust of the members to make decisions and make them in the best interest of the club. And if I go through 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 decisions where people don't think that's in the best interest of the club, they're going to fuck me off. So it's in my interest to make sure that I'm as open as I can be. I'm as transparent as I can be. When it's time for our finances to be published, they're not just going to get published to there's a commission that looks after the sort of company where we're a community interest company, which is not quite a charity and it's not quite a non-profit. It's sort of a weird grey space in between, but that's what we exist are. We are a community interest company because we are set up for our community, be it local or online or a combination of both. And there is a commission that audits us to make sure that what we're doing is providing for our community. Now, I think we're right on the line for it. I've got no qualms about that whatsoever. But once they've audited our books, we will publish our books because we're not hiding anything. No, we're not mortgaging the club to the future. We're not trying to, we're not doing it Glazer style. If we could do anything, it'd be whatever the Glazers do, we won't do that. So I can promise everyone it will be the most transparent football club in the world. If we are only that, then I'll be happy.
I mean, it feels that way, and I've honestly had the opportunity and the pleasure to watch you train on it in a training session, and the work that you guys put in, behind the scenes, all of that stuff. I couldn't be any more mesmerized, and it was a remarkable experience. But before I let you go, I actually wanted to ask you about what your experience has been like with respect to maybe some key moments. What's your favorite Stretford Paddock Football Club moment that you've had so far?
Well, this moment here was the first trophy we've won. It may only be a pre-season trophy, but it's a trophy. And what's really interesting about this is I'm from Droylsden. This part of Manchester is where I'm from. This trophy is called the Tony Downs Memorial Trophy. And this is named after a soldier that was killed in Afghanistan the tour after I'd came home. So the pub next to the stadium is owned by the soldier's mum and dad. And there has been, for the last 15, 16 years, this enormous memorial on the side of the pub, which says our son Tony, everybody's hero, Guardsman Tony Downs, his date of birth and the day that he passed. So I saw that for years while I was still serving. every day driving. My parents live just around the corner from it. So I don't know the guy, but I feel like I know the guy. And then for us to be asked to play in this was Drosden's first game back after 3 years. COVID put them in mothballs. They resigned from the league for a couple of years to try and keep the club alive. We played there for a few games in one season, and we had too many people for COVID, so Tameside Council shut us down. But we came back for this game. There was 2,000 people in the place, most of them giving me shit because we're not Drosden. And we won it on penalties, and it was a really nice competitive game. I just wanted it to be a competitive match. I didn't care if we won. I didn't care if we lost. I just wanted it for both clubs' sake to be a competitive fixture. If they'd have won 5-0, it's terrible for us. If we'd have won 5-0, it's terrible for them. And I just wanted it to be a good competitive game. And it was 1-1. It went to penalties. It was everything you could have wanted. There was chances. There was, the crowd was getting involved. It was a fantastic day. I'm really glad Drosden are back. Obviously, we ground share with them. So massive positive for us that they're back. And the first piece of silverware, I don't care if it's a glorified community shield. I think it's for an extremely worthy cause to keep the memory of one of my comrades alive. And it won't be the last piece of silverware we're lifting this season, I promise you.
Mm-hmm. All right, Steve, that's the end. I just wanted to take this moment to thank you once again. I know you're super busy, but for real, thank you so much. One last thing. Can I get this signed? Can I get this one signed? Right here?
Coach gun, yeah.
That's it, Steve. Thank you so much.
Was you with us in New Jersey when Ronaldo's just through the back here? Ronaldo and Cam getting asked to sign Paddock shirts. Did you see that?
No, what the hell?
That was a moment that took a bit. I mean, everywhere we went in the States, there was someone coming up to us with a Paddock shirt. It was insane how many. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't genuinely fathom how many we saw. But then in New Jersey, there was guys asking Ronaldo and Cam to sign the shirts. And I got a cool photo of me, Cam, and Ronaldo outside the stadium in the Netherlands, just thinking, what a cool moment. We're all here for different reasons. Me, Cam, and Ronaldo, all slightly different reasons why we're here, but we're all here watching United, and there's a Paddock audience out here as well. So that was cool.
That preseason tour. If I can bring you on for another time, I'd love to talk to you about it, break it down, get your thoughts on what you felt like.
Oh, mate, I got nothing to do for another. I'm chill. If you want to keep going, keep it going.
Oh, let's do it then. Let's do it. Let's talk a little bit about it.
I'm going to training in an hour and 15 minutes. And between now and then, that I ain't doing anything else. So.
Oh, well, I got about 15 minutes before I got to get my ass back to work. But let's talk a little bit about the preseason. Out of all the states that you visited, which one was your favorite?
Not Vegas.
you hated Vegas.
Yeah.
Why? Wait, can you just tell them why?
I think it's hard to explain. I value authenticity above everything else. Mm-hmm. And Vegas is the opposite of that in every sense of the word, isn't it? Absolutely. Everything about Vegas is fake, is flashy for no reason. Like, be flashy, but do it for a reason. You know what I mean? Like, I just didn't vibe with the place at all. I went in 2015 with my wife. And it was our honeymoon, and we'd had a great time. We did about 3 weeks, and we'd done 15, 16 days. It was just us. We'd done San Diego, Yosemite. We did Yosemite. We did Monterey, Santa Barbara, Los Angeles. And we had a Camaro that we drove around. So it's mostly, this trip has been us two, most of it in a car. But it's just been us two, and it was great. It was one of my favorite ever trips. Then we get to Vegas, and it's Labor Day weekend, so that's like a bank holiday for you guys. Was it like early September or something?
Yes, it's the first week of September, yeah.
So we get to Vegas, and I can't describe how many people was in Las Vegas. Every single street was. This is the main strip, the main strip of Vegas. Was like kicking out time of a football match where you can't actually walk anywhere. You're just doing this sort of penguin walk with the crowd. And I couldn't handle it. And I was like, I didn't like it. I mean, we did some cool stuff. We went to Battlefield. I think it's almost like the law that you have to go to Battlefield when you're in Vegas. We watched a Cirque du Soleil show. Mm-hmm. Like we did everything that you're supposed to do in Vegas. And I fucking hated it. And then we come back with the lads, and I'm like, all right, we're going with the lads. It'll be a different vibe, right? I'll probably enjoy this. We're going with the lads. You know the script. And I fucking hated it. I tried to return my car on day one. I mean, I just spent 8 hours with Ronaldo. in traffic. There'd been about 4 accidents on the way. It took us so long to get from LA to Vegas. We get to Vegas. I've got to return my hire car. It's on a red route. There's nowhere for me to pull over. It's a car park. It's an Avis with a car park, but there's no signs. I ring them up, and the woman at the hotel is like, everyone from Avis has gone home. I'm like, great. What am I supposed to do? I eventually find where I'm supposed to drop it, but there's no one for me to give the keys to. So I'm like, I'm just going to like put these keys in a letterbox. This makes no sense whatsoever. Like, and there's no one for me to speak to about it or anything. And I've been on the phone for I must have had 17 phone calls with people trying to sort it out. And then I sort that out, and then I have to try and get an Uber because that's in like the old part of Vegas. And
Right.
Here at the MGM, which is the opposite side. I get an Uber. I'm sat in traffic. There's a million people. Was there a fight that weekend as well?
Yes. Spencer and Crawford.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, so the MGM's the fucking worst hotel in the world to be at because the whole world is trying to get to that hotel.
Yep.
It's about 1,000,000 degrees, and I'm just pissed off. I'm just in a mood. And in the Uber, I booked a flight home, and I was like, I'm going home. And the only thing that stopped me was the logistics of me. I could get a flight to London Heathrow, but then the time that it would have landed, I would have needed another hotel in London before I could get up in the morning. And that just, I ended up, I phoned Janine. She talked me out of it. And then obviously we ended up sticking around. But I lost my shit again on the Monday or the Tuesday. Like, I think it's amazing people follow the channel and this, that, and the other. And
right.
I do genuinely love meeting people, but I've got like this limit, and it gets met quickly during the day. And I can't, like, I just want to be honest with you, I don't like the selfies and the attention. It's not me. It's and people go, what the fuck do you do YouTube for? And you're like, well, most of the time I'm in this office on my own. It's not like there's not 200,000 people in my office with me. So, it's a weird consequence of what you do, where it's great that people watch, and it's great that people want to interact with it. And I would never be rude to someone and refuse to take a selfie and this, that, and the other. But as I've said a few times, just know I don't fucking like it. So I'd be much happier if people just go, what's happening? And give me some knuckles and fucking keep it moving. I can live with that. Or just call me a prick. And Vegas, I guess everyone was staying around the same place for watching the United game.
Yeah.
And it was too full on. And I can't cope with it. Like, it's alien. And McCullough's genuinely good at it. Great. And Joel Bayer's genuinely good at it. And I'm genuinely really bad at it. And I can't hide my face sometimes. Where I can't be asked. But yeah, so there was a few moments following the game, like the day after the game. I went and met Patterson and Alex Bagley. Mm-hmm. And 3 times I tried to leave my room, and it was like people in my corridor were asking for selfies, people in the lift. Oh. And I was like, I'm going home. Like, and then Alex eventually got me out. We went to go and eat something. And I said, if one person just speaks to me today, I'm fucking going. And there was a guy came and sat down at our table. and again, I'm not going to be rude to him, but I'm sitting there like, oh, and Alex and Adam are obviously pissing themselves because they're a pair of wind-up merchants. I'm just thinking, it's a thing to get wound up about, in it, because it's just people wanting to have a connection, and obviously they like the channel and this, that, and other. But yeah, it's weird, and it takes me a long time to get used to it. So
yeah, but like you said, Steve, like some people are just born with it. Like they can do it like this. Like Adam, he can do it like that. He's a superstar. Like, other people are, not that good at it. You know what I mean? And I was with you guys the whole tour, and you guys, the amount of pictures you guys got asked to take, I was like, because I was the photographer for you guys. I had thousands of photos of just different people coming up to you guys. I was like, this is insane. The amount of times, I'm nowhere near you guys, but some people asked me to come take photos, and I was grateful, of course. But at one point I was like, my jaws hurt from smiling, and I did nothing compared to what you guys were doing. So that, like, I could understand 100% how that must have felt like. Just like,
yeah, I was trying to have a conversation with Ian Edwards at halftime of the Dortmund game in Vegas, and I couldn't get more than a single word before someone had jumped in and was trying to get a picture, and it was tiring.
Look, you talked about Vegas, of course.
Sorry. San Diego was probably my favorite part.
San Diego's for me was my favorite as well. I love that place. It was like the perfect blend of calmness, good energy, and just, of course, the weather's phenomenal. Everything was great.
Good food as well. It was good food. I think the best food that we had was probably in San Diego.
I agree, and I'm from New York. You had a moment in preseason where you had to do like an interview in front of the MetLife with Wes Brown, and of course Sam was there and whatnot. Like that crowd was probably the biggest crowd you guys drew. Like that tent was packed, and you probably weren't able to see it because you were obviously in front of the tent. But there was a crowd outside of the tent. There was people crawling from the backside. Like, how was that? Like, I know you guys do your own live shows, but that must have been crazy. Just coming to New York to do that.
All of it's hard to wrap your head around. It really is. Like, I turned up there. My Uber driver took me to the wrong entrance, and a guy, like the security guys, they drive like golf carts, don't they? And there was a guy recognized me that was a security guard, and he was like, I'll take you around to where they all are, because the tailgate was like basically the 180-degree other side of the stadium, like completely in the wrong direction. I was like, all right, cool. And I ended up chatting to that guy a little bit who drove me around. But him getting me there too quick almost was a problem, because then I'm standing on my own and I'm just at the side of this tent, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like,
right.
People ask us to go, just go and host a live thing. You're like, what the f am I supposed to say? Like, told, not that I'd ever read out whatever I'm told what to say, but it's never anything. It's just like, there's a microphone, figure it out, stupid. And you're like, So, and it's like you've got a crowd watching. Right. The PA systems are never good enough that you've actually got good audio.
Nope.
So you're just almost trying to drop a single liner, get the crowd a bit cheery, and then get Wes Brown to talk, because this is who they're here for, really, isn't it? So, but yeah, again, the same thing. Like, we're standing on the bollards out the back, and with Sam and with Ronaldo and with Cam and with Adam, Joe and Jay, and I'm thinking, like, it's nuts that we're able to do this, and we're only able to do this because people watch us. So, like I said, I'll always stop. If you ask me for a selfie, you're getting one. Just know that I fucking hate it. Like, I find it really difficult, but I'll do it. Vegas particularly can fuck off with that shit.
Are you guys in like service with respect to US? I don't know why you guys had such a bad experience. There was that moment at that pub where the lady was giving us grief because we were just sitting down.
Yeah, this is America. Like, America's out of control with tipping. Out of control. Like, people in the supermarkets are flipping it around and being like, "Am I getting a tip for that?" You're like, "What? No." And then we go into this Irish bar, don't we? In which casino was it in?
Can't remember. I can't tell you. They all look the same to me.
No shit. Yeah, so we're in nearly had it on the tip of my tongue then. Anyway, we're in an Irish bar, and there's like a group of 5 or 6 of us arrive, and there's a group of 7 or 8 already in there. Yeah. And they're sitting at the bar. Like you see in every like film or TV show ever, people are just sitting at the bar having a drink. It's very normal and it looks fine. Yeah. And there's a bit of an atmosphere in there. It sounds all right. We order a drink, and then there's like a whole row of tables.
Yeah.
With nobody on them, like right there. So we did what any normal human being would do and just sit there. There's not enough room at the bar, so we'll just sit here, right? You know what I mean? And then the manager comes over kicking off. You can't sit there. And we're like, oh, is it reserved? No. What? It's on a different server's fucking ticket or some shit. You're like, well, we paid already. We're at the bar. Now you need to move. Honestly feeling like you're being punked or something. So there ends up being a bit of a row. Yeah. This really rude woman. And then she goes and puts us in this booth, which is actually a bit better. And then she comes back and she's like, you can't sit in here. He's like, I don't know who told you can sit in here. Like, your fucking manager did. Like, what are you on about?
Oh, man. Honestly, the whole car rental, the serving, the tipping and all that, you guys, I understand getting overwhelmed. I can hear you. I hear it.
Yeah, San Diego's cool. That what's it called? Ker Exchange? You came to that, right?
Oh, no, that one's the one where I flew in a day after.
Got you right. Okay. So, yeah, we had some amazing food in there. That Ker Exchange, I recommend that to anyone who's in San Diego. And there was a couple of spots in San Diego where the food was real nice, actually. Yeah. San Diego's a vibe. It feels Mediterranean.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. Then me and Ronaldo dipped off to LA.
How was that?
How or why?
Both, I guess.
I've drove all this way or flew all this way. I'm this close to LA. I don't need to spend 5 days in San Diego. I'm going to go do a night in LA. And Ian Edwards hooked us up. Met Bobby Lee at the Comedy Store. And,
awesome. And
Bobby Lee goes, oh, I know you. You're on Rio's podcast, right? And you're like,
that's crazy.
What the fuck? He goes, what are you on with the Arsenal guy? What's he called? And I'm like, Joel. And he's like, that's it. I was like,
wow.
this is wild. So yeah, we went and hung out with Ian Edwards, and luckily Ian was the best one there on the Comedy Store as well. Because like I've took Ronaldo to go see this guy. You're like, I hope he's actually good here. I mean, the reason I started following Ian Edwards in the first place was because I thought he was hilarious. We saw him at the Comedy Store 2015, and then we go back and he sorts us out tickets. He was by far the best that was on show that night, and I was like, oh, that's good.
Shout out Ian.
Yeah, shout out Ian Edwards, big United fan. And then what do we do? I think we went and had a drink somewhere, just me and Ronnie, and then we went back to our crackdown of a hotel that we managed to find, which was out in the middle of nowhere, real fucking sketchy part of Los Angeles. And then we jumped in the car. Next morning, drove over to Vegas. Stopped off in Barstow, which is a strange gaff. Looked exactly the same as when I stopped off there in 2015. Like nothing has changed at all. And I think that's quite depressing. But yeah, I mean, New York, New Jersey was cool. I don't know, but if you felt this when you came over to here, because obviously you've been to our office in Northern Quarter. Mm-hmm. Does Northern Quarter and New York feel the same to you?
Absolutely. I tell people all the time that like people associate, Manchester with other parts like Trafford Center and all this. For me, Northern Quarter is just the closest thing I can feel to New York. That's why I felt so at home, sort of like going to Northern Quarter and just hanging out with people there. Like there was that one night you took us out for dinner. Just walking around the street. It felt like I was literally walking in Manhattan, like that energy. And it really feels like there's a
when
reason
we
why
went to Little Italy, that feels like
exactly
that street there. That street there from where I am, like Thomas Street. Like it felt. The energy was the exact same. The buildings are very similar looking.
Right.
The streets are on a bit of a grid. Like, yeah, I felt. I think me and Ronnie were saying this. Like, this feels really familiar. And we were trying to say, is it because of the amount of films based in New York? Is that got something to do with it? Maybe. But yeah, Northern Quarter and New York, it feels eerily similar. So New York felt similar, but I didn't feel like we were in New York long enough to really get a vibe of the place. Like it felt really rushed. I'll be back. I'll bring to the anything. Yeah, I'll be back. Yeah, not as a match on though.
I got to get back to work because my boss is probably gonna kick my ass. But Steve, I just want to thank you one more time for real. Appreciate your time for real.
Anytime, mate.